the pain like.
Hey guys, dearyoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. In the past, I have uploaded videos reacting to unpopular K-pop opinions from you guys and from Reddit, but I have never actually reacted to unpopular opinions from Twitter, so I will be doing that today. Just before somebody says it, no, I will not be calling this app X, because it will always be Twitter in my heart. I will not be sharing the ats of any of the original posts, and please try to remember that these are just opinions. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. European fans don't want K-pop festivals. We just want to be considered when our faves go on world tours instead of them just going to the US. I just wanted to start with this one because I think out of everything we're going to mention in this video, this is the one I feel most strongly about, and I wholeheartedly agree. There has been a huge increase in the amount of European K-pop festivals over the past few years, and I am worried it's partially because companies see how successful the previous one was each time and want to cash in on a bit of that revenue for themselves. But the real reason why so many of these festivals get a large turnout is because we European fans are not expecting our faves to come and see us as part of their world tour anytime soon, and we will therefore take any opportunity we can get. In reality, we're traveling from countries all across Europe to attend these concerts, and although Europe may seem quite small for people outside of it, it's extremely costly for us to fly to another country for a concert and then paying for accommodation, time off work, etc. And it's usually on a last-minute time frame as well. I don't doubt that there are some stans who prefer festivals to sort of kill multiple birds with one stone and see a few acts they like at once, but I think there's also a large number of us who would much prefer a full concert from our favourite group rather than just a 4-song set from them at a festival. And if given the option, I think a lot of us would choose to be included on a tour over a festival visit any day. Don't get me wrong, I completely understand the standpoint of these companies who think there isn't a big enough K-pop following in Europe to justify including us in your artist's tours, but I promise you, we're out here and we're so patiently waiting to feel a little bit more included properly, not just at festivals. Our next unpopular opinion says, I think K-pop should mainly stick to Koreans. I'm not saying to discriminate and mistreat foreign idols, but I think companies shouldn't be encouraging every race to join the industry when the racism is inevitable and it takes away from Korean culture. Before we go any further, I just want to preface this one by saying I do understand what the point our original tweeter was trying to make is. I'm just not 100% sure if this is worded in the best way it could be. I think the main point the individual is trying to make is that K-pop artists from other countries have experienced quite a lot of discrimination in the past, but I'm really not keen on the way this person used the phrase "it takes away from Korean culture" because that doesn't really make much sense to me, especially because K-pop has always been a genre that is a mixture of multiple cultures at once. But just circling back to the racism non-Korean idols face, unfortunately this is still something that happens to this date. Only recently a story circulated where NCT's Chenle was visiting a restaurant with a friend in Korea when a member of the restaurant's staff decided to post about his visit online, calling him a derogatory term used to describe Chinese individuals, which is absolutely unacceptable. Fortunately, the person did lose their job over this, but this just further drives home the fact that non-Korean idols are going to face that racism. However, I personally do not think this is a good enough reason to not encourage Chinese from overseas to come into the K-pop community. I don't think having no non-Korean idols in a group is the right way to avoid racism, and instead we as a society should just simply be making more efforts to move towards becoming less racist. I personally have no problem with anyone from another country becoming a K-pop idol, regardless of their ethnicity. Like Black Swan's Fatu recently so eloquently said in an interview, if the music is still in Korean and the idols are making the effort to learn and sing in Korean, then it's still K-pop as far as I'm concerned.
You're a K-pop group, there's no K, there's no Korean. Does it matter?
Actually, there is K because we sing in Korean, and K-pop is Korean pop. So as long as the language is there, it is still K-pop.
K-pop doesn't just stand for Korean people, it stands for Korean pop music. And if the Korean pop music stays in Korean, then it still has the original sentiment. Okay, I could really make a whole video about this previous topic, going into more detail, so for now, let's move on to our next opinion. HYBE's best groups are groups that already existed before HYBE was a thing. Okay, this is an interesting one, but I think I would say I disagree with this point, and I can explain why. I stan multiple artists that were either under HYBE HYBE before HYBE became a thing, or who have been formed since HYBE came into existence. And within the groups that fall under these categories, we have some amazing artists who I personally think are all thriving in their different ways. The main reason I have to say I disagree with this point personally is just because with these groups under HYBE all being so different, it's hard to put them all in the same ranking list and decide who is best to worst. They're exploring different genres in many cases, with different directions due to being under different subsidiaries of HYBE. It's like comparing apples and oranges in a way. Plus, a lot of these groups are at different stages in their career and lifespans as a group so far. So for example, it doesn't personally feel fair to me to perhaps compare a group with 6 years plus experience under their belt to a group who have just newly been formed within the past year or two to then decide who is better or worse when they are shining as they are in their different stages of their career. Does that make sense? It just seems a bit strange to me to try and compare groups who haven't been around for very long to groups who have been doing this for a very long time to then decide who's better or worse, especially when they're just on completely different journeys at the moment. Next opinion we have simply says, I'm very done with competition K-pop group making shows. Confession, and I can't remember if I've ever told you guys this before, but I have never watched a single survival show which is aiming to like create a new K-pop group, none of the produced series or anything like that, just because the style and format of making a group in this way personally doesn't really interest me in a TV show format. And then of course you have all the controversies with the voting scandals, which is really unfortunate, and I don't really like that situation that a lot of trainees have been put in. But I of course have never had any issue with the fact that people do enjoy and consume these TV shows, that's why they're still around. But what I am now struggling with is the sheer abundance of them, and I know a lot of people agree. I could not agree with this opinion more, and I'm also overseeing these TV shows making groups just because there's so many of them now. I think it has sort of gotten to a point where there's also a saturation too. Because there are so many of these styles of shows back to back all year long, fans aren't able to eventually appreciate these newly formed groups when they finally debut, because they're like the 5th or 6th group we've seen in the space of a few months. And that isn't fair on any of the participants either, of course not. They can't control the sheer volume we're getting as consumers, but it is only natural that when you make something so extremely readily available to an audience, they're more likely to get sick of it faster or appreciate it less. And I think that's exactly what's happening right here. We'll look at this next opinion now because it's a very similar idea. I think it's a really bad idea when K-pop groups drop too many songs one after another. If you do 5 comebacks a year and also drop songs randomly, then it's difficult for people to really appreciate them. Again, I think this ties back to the idea of market saturation. When you release 4, 5 or 6 different versions of the same song, fans quickly begin to proclaim that they're getting so sick of it. Just look at what happened to LE SSERAFIM's song Eve, Psyche and the Bluebeard's Wife and its many iterations. But when it comes to groups releasing multiple different songs or comebacks one after the other, I think it does change a little bit, and that makes this interesting. I think perhaps more so in their first 18 months to perhaps 2 years, it makes more sense for a group to try and be producing as much music as they can or coming back more regularly, especially in K-pop where the market moves so quickly, just to make sure you're getting your name out there and it's on the map, people remember you. Releasing more and more music in that short time frame can also have other benefits, such as helping newly debuted idols improve their abilities and confidence on stage, as well as helping them establish a more recognizable sound. So when they do come back, the audience recognize them and they can gather a bit more of a fan base more quickly that way. When it comes to groups who have been around longer, I can definitely understand why some people might find it tiresome to see them coming back multiple times a year. As much as we love seeing new music from our faves, like this original tweet says, it makes it much harder to appreciate a comeback if it's the 5th one this year. And there's also that potential issue of the quality also declining due to the attempts to increase the quantity. But at the end of the day, we as fans also wouldn't be happy if a group only came back once every year or so either. So I think it's about trying to find and strike that happy medium if that's even at all possible. Next opinion we'll be looking at says, I'm fine with select members being good dancers only. K-pop groups traditionally have a balance of members with different positions, and in my opinion that works. I do think, however, there is a problem when you have a group of dancers and one vocalist to carry. I sort of addressed this topic already in my recent video talking about EXO member Xiumin's controversial comments on the show NCT Universe LA Start, which is the same topic I think this user is also referring to. For those who don't know or haven't seen my most recent video yet, Xiumin told a group of trainees that dance isn't the most important thing, and if they can't sing well, they will look untalented. In my video, we discussed both sides of the argument before looking at my opinion, and I mentioned that while I agree with Xiumin's statement that vocal ability can be very important, I don't think that necessarily means that if you can't sing, you will look untalented, because dance is a whole different kind of skill. I believe it makes sense if your role within the group is to be vocalists that you should absolutely be training the most in that. However, in K-pop, it's very normal to have some members of your group who are perhaps not so much known for their singing, but their dance skills instead, because they are the main or lead dancer of the group. And like this opinion says, I don't really have a problem with this, because some K-pop groups do have a good balance of singers and dancers doing their role within the group. So if there are some members who excel more at singing rather than dancing, or vice versa, then great, as long as the distribution works and makes sense to keep the group flowing well. However, like this person said, I do agree that you are potentially teetering into a problematic or difficult territory if one member of the group is known for their outstanding vocals and then nobody is really there to back them up. Putting all of your eggs in one basket in that way that some companies do is a very risky business. What if the one member you rely on vocally has to go on hiatus due to injury or illness, or worse, decides to leave the group? A group works better if the members' abilities are able to complement one another, which is precisely why groups usually do have a rap line or a vocal line rather than just one individual trying to battle to do everything. And last opinion we're looking at today says, groups look much nicer and put together when all the members have the same coloured hair. I've never really thought about this before, and now that I have, to be honest, I don't think it makes much of a difference to me. I guess it could go either way. However, the creative in me actually quite likes when there's a variety of hair colours and stylings within a comeback, for a few reasons really. It can help members stand out more perhaps and develop their individuality within the group. Plus there's been a lot of occasions where like someone has gone viral and it's like, oh, it's the one with the pink hair or the one with the short hair, and everyone remembers who they are based off that. And the marketer in me is thinking about how that could benefit the group in terms of their brand recognizability. And sometimes certain hairstyles and colours can actually really complement the concept that the comeback is aiming for and really act as a visual aid to help further actualize the concept, if I'm making any sense. Also, personally for me, I find it quite exciting every time a new comeback comes around to see what they will do with the group's image this time. Will the member who always has the same hair colour dye it? Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, will the member who has to change their hair every era change it again? It's kind of interesting to me to see how they're going to go with things. What's your guys' thoughts on this one? Is this something you've ever considered before? Okay guys, and that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I would love to hear your thoughts on some of these opinions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. That should let you be the first to hear whenever I upload, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!